Hello, everybody, and I can't thank you all enough for joining us tonight at the Brem Foundation to Defeat Breast Cancer, where we continue to put wings on hope. I want to light this candle in memory of many and in honor of all. So back in 2005, women like Ellen Gordon, Sue Apple, they were gathering women in their homes to hear Dr. Brem's message, and I decided I was going to take it out of the home and into a larger venue, and that is when the chain of events began. And we're going to start with Beth Benita.
18 years ago, my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer at age 36. She passed away 12 years ago at age 44, when it later metastasized through her entire body. It was 10 years ago when I received a call from Jody telling me about this amazing, enlightening, educated doctor that she just heard speak. Well, 3 months later, I was invited by Jody to hear Dr. Rachel Brem. And yes, Jody was right. Jody's always right. Dr. Brem was totally amazing, enlightening, and so well educated. So now it was my turn. I went for my mammogram, and it became out questionable, not knowing what to do. And after losing my sister, I was very scared. So I called Jody, and she goes, "I'll pick you up." And we went right down to Dr. Brem. Dr. Brem performed the MRI and a BSGI, which you saw on the screen, the breast-specific gamma imaging. And thankfully, I was okay, but that was a hug that will last a lifetime. 6 months after that, I was asked to hostess, and happily sending out invitations to everyone I knew. And I probably sent them over to you over and over and over and over again until you could come. And I will continue to do that. And I am honored to support the Brem Foundation. And I will continue to introduce my friends. Well, one of my friends that I did invite was Lori Wright, and she's here tonight.
Good evening. My name is Lori Wright. I attended this Brem Foundation after Beth invited me, and I wasn't very excited to come. That day was on a Sunday here because I was training for the Avon Walk for breast cancer for my mother who passed 10 years ago this May. But I wanted to support my friend Beth and find out more information about this disease. So I came, and I also brought along my friend Cathy. And we've done the Avon Walk, and we come to every Brem Foundation here in Montgomery County, and I am here to introduce Cathy.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Cathy, and as Lori said, we've started this little chain of inspiration of coming to the Brem events, and as Lori, I was training for the 40-mile Avon Walk as well. The timing for the event that I was invited to was not good. It was the very weekend before the walk. We had a lot more training to do. She guilted me into cutting training short that day and said, "I've got to go to support Beth, but I'm not going to this thing alone, and you have to come with me." So I had gotten pretty proactive about breast cancer events because, like Lori, breast cancer is way too familiar in our family. My grandmother, 2 of my aunts had breast cancer. Thankfully, they all survived to live a very, very long time. But we knew about breast cancer. We knew that we had to have mammograms. So my sister Joanne, who's here tonight, and my youngest sister Sherry, we started having mammograms in our 30s, which at that time was pretty young for people to be having mammograms. But we were doing the right thing. We knew what we were doing, and we were keeping an eye on it because the history in the family is just overwhelming. So I begrudgingly came along, and I sat through an event where I have to say the goosebumps and the hair stood on my my arms when I heard Dr. Brem's story about finding her own cancer and having lived through all of that. But it was particularly meaningful because our youngest sister, Sherry, who had done all the right things. We had done the mammograms, and yet, at 35 years old, she was diagnosed with stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer. It doesn't show up on a mammogram. It's in the tissue. So even though we knew, and we did, and we were proactive, it was devastating. Her prognosis was not good. She fought like hell, and she got a couple of years to stay with us. And in that time, we learned an awful lot about breast cancer. In fact, my sister Joanne and I had the BRCA test, and we were negative, both of us. We were negative. My sister's oncologist put me on tamoxifen for 5 years as a preventive measure. Didn't know if it would work or not, but they said with the risk factor, it was worth trying. So I did that for 5 years. I came to the Dr. Brem Brunch with Brem on a Sunday in April of 2009. Timing was bad for the walk, but for me, it turned out I was in the right place at the right time. I listened to Dr. Brem's speech. As has it, my birthday's in May. I have my annual exams every year in May. The walk was the first weekend in May. 2 days later, I had my annual mammogram. A week later, I went in for results. They were negative. But at that meeting, based on a meeting and discussion I had with Dr. Brem at that brunch, I found myself empowered to do something I never thought I would do, and that was fight for some further tests. It's because at that meeting, Dr. Brem did a Q&A, and I asked her about this dense tissue and the MRIs, and I said, I don't know if my sister had dense breast, but they didn't find this on the mammogram. The ultrasound didn't find it either. They had to do more. And I asked her if I should have an MRI. Dr. Brem said, can you stay after the event? I'd like to talk to you. She stayed, I stayed, we talked, and the result of that talk was, I gave her some history. I said, do you think I need to get an MRI? And her response to me was, it's not, should you get an MRI? You must have a baseline MRI. At least get it documented. Just so we have it, but with the history, with the dense breast, which I had, dense tissue, you must get one. And she said, and if your insurance won't pay for it, the foundation will. And I took that piece of information knowing that if my insurance company said no, which they originally did, that in the back pocket I had Dr. Brem's personal phone number that she had given me to call if I needed it. And so I go for my results. They tell me it's negative. Good job. You don't have to come back for a couple of years. I said, oh, no, I'll be back in a year because I'm not going through that multi-year stuff. But I said, but one more thing. I need an MRI. And the doctor asked me why. I just told you it was negative. And I told her, oh, because I had, based on good recommendation, that I should have a baseline MRI. And they said, but we don't do that for just everybody. It's very, very expensive. And I said, I know, but I have to have one. So they pulled out the criteria sheet. I didn't meet everything on it. And I said, but I really need one. She says, well, I really wish I could give you one, but I can't. And I said, well, I need one. She said, well, you have to go see the surgeons, and they have to make a referral. So long story short, went to see the surgeon. Surgeon did a whole protocol. I didn't meet it. Even with the history, even with losing my sister, even with all of this other stuff, they said I didn't quite meet it. I pushed, but I thought, I'm going to call Dr. Brem when I leave. So I got up from the meeting and I said to the doctor, thank you for trying. I guess I'm just going to have to hope that the tamoxifen that I took for 5 years is going to work. And she stopped me dead in my tracks and said, tamoxifen, who ordered you tamoxifen? And when I told her it was the oncologist at my insurance company, she said, whatever he used to put you on that tamoxifen, that's what I'm going to use to put you in for an MRI. A month and a half later, I was in for an MRI in July. They said, looks fine on the surface, and got a call about 3 days later and said, you know what, there was something suspicious on that MRI. We need you to come back, and we need to do a needle-guided MRI-guided needle biopsy. So I didn't tell anybody in my family. Nobody knew I'd gone through the original test. Nobody knew I'd gone for a biopsy. And after the biopsy was finished, the surgeon said, we have to wait for the test results, but I've done a lot of these and this tissue looks good. I think you're fine. I said, okay, good. Said, leave my message, leave my results on the voicemail if you get them. Left for vacation that morning. Get a call 3 days later while I'm on vacation with the dreaded words nobody wants to hear. She said, I'm really sorry, but you have breast cancer, and we need you back here immediately. It's a very, very rare aggressive type. It's called triple-negative breast cancer. Doesn't show on the mammogram. And they said, we need you here for surgery and treatment right away. And they said, thank God you pushed for the MRI, because it may not have shown for at least 2 to 3 more years on a mammogram, if it ever showed up. And your result and your prognosis would be incredibly different. So within a month, I had had a double mastectomy, and a month later, chemotherapy for 6 months. And being inspired by Dr. Brem to push forward, to ask for more, something I would not normally have done, but I knew I could call the Brem Foundation if I needed to. I just last month celebrated my 5-year all clear. So as you've heard everybody here tonight, I didn't want to come. It was a couple hours out of my lifetime. I'm very busy. I didn't want to be here. It's about who you know, who you meet, being there at the right time, being inspired to advocate for yourself. And I'm dedicated to this forever because Dr. Brem saved my life. Good medicine saved my life. My family, many of who are here tonight, my friends, all had a huge part of this. And I have so many nieces and my kids, and I too won't stop until this disease is done. And part of my caregivers giving me great inspiration to get out of the bed when I didn't want to walk 2 steps is my brother-in-law, Craig, who I am honored tonight to introduce, and he's going to come up here and say a few things. Oh, maybe not?
We have one minute.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Ellen, you're coming? Okay. Here's another story you're not going to want to miss. But thank you all, and please take the advice, take the information you've learned tonight, and go advocate for yourselves. Thank you.
I can't emphasize enough
Speak into the
with what was just said. I too have been invited to the brunches and went begrudgingly a little bit. Like, I had so much to do, I'm so busy. But my friend Jody, it all started with Jody, for her birthday in 2007. Instead of having a birthday party, she invited everybody to come out for a brunch and donate money to the Brem Foundation because it meant so much to her. And I thought that was so beautiful. So I went and I donated. And I brought my daughter. And then Jody invited me to more brunches. And it was hard to get out. Sundays are busy, but I went. And then Jody asked me to be a hostess. How do you say no to Jody? So I became a hostess, and I invited all my friends, and I sent out all my invitations, and I attended, and I was very proud to be there helping all these other women. Then in June of 2013, I got a call back from my annual mammogram. I remember the waiting and the agony. Then I went for what's called a magnified view. and I was told I needed a core needle biopsy. And it was scheduled a week out. I was scared, panicked. What did I do? I called Jody. Within 10 minutes, I had an appointment with Dr. Brem the next day. Within 12 hours, I was on Dr. Brem's table. She was doing my core needle biopsy and my MRI. I didn't have to wait for the biopsy. I got very quick, fabulous, compassionate care. And I am here tonight, standing in front of all of you, in appreciation for the tremendous, compassionate care that Dr. Brem gave me, and in celebration of where I am today, after about a year of being diagnosed with breast cancer and going through the surgery and the treatment needed. And I can say that now I'm a year cancer-free. And truly, it is, early diagnosis is a good prognosis. And I'm so thankful and grateful to all of you who are here to support this cause. It's a very, very, very important cause. Because you just never know. And aren't I glad I had the power of orange behind me and Brem angels by my side. So please tell your friends and join the cause, because really, you just never know. Thank you again.